Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Nonprofit Coach with Ted Hart, the most listened to internet radio show in the nonprofit sector, dedicated to helping your charity succeed. It's no secret that combining online and offline techniques is the key to modern-day fundraising success, and practical advice is what you need. The Nonprofit Coach with Ted Hart is the perfect landing point to learn from experts around the world who provide advice you can use. Ted Hart is without a doubt one of the foremost nonprofit thought leaders, also a successful author. His books range from successful online fundraising to the use of social media and how to make your nonprofit green. Guests on the Nonprofit Coach are leaders in their field who share tips and trade secrets for nonprofit management and fundraising success. Ted lectures around the world, but now he's here for you. From the latest in charity news, technology, fundraising, and social networking, Ted and his guests help you and your organization move to greater levels of efficiency and fundraising success. This is a live call-in show. Add your voice by calling 347-324-3080. After the show, you can find all our podcasts at tedhart.com. Click on Radio. Don't forget to dial 347-324-3080. Now, welcome the host of the Nonprofit Coach, Ted Hart.
And welcome here to the Nonprofit Coach. We are live here in Nashville at BBCON 2014. I could not be more excited to have this special edition of the Nonprofit Coach. We will be live here from BBCON for the next 90 minutes. We will have some of the top experts that are here speaking at BBCON with us here today. As the introduction mentioned, this is a live call-in show, so please feel free to call in and ask questions of our guests. Make sure that you press the number 1 so that you will raise your hand on the switchboard so that I know that you're not just listening in, but you want to ask a question as well. You can join us over in the chat room. I can see some folks over in the chat room. You can ask questions there, or you can email me today at tedhart@tedhart.com. For those of you who are familiar with the Nonprofit Coach, we always start with we have some very special guests here to kick off the show. Shanon Doolittle is here. She is a donor happy coach. Shanon is a fundraising and donor happiness coach who helps nonprofits retain more donors, raise more money, and do more good. An internationally recognized speaker and trainer, Shanon loves sharing the know-how fundraisers need to keep their donors feeling appreciated and needed while making their jobs as do-gooders feel fun and inspiring. Also joining us in this segment of the Nonprofit Coach is Vanessa Chase. Vanessa is a fundraising and communications strategist who founded the StorytellingNonprofit.com to help nonprofits connect to more meaningful ways with donors through stories and stewardship. She works with nonprofits throughout North America, including the BC Children's Hospital Foundation, Youth Gospel Mission, and Cancer Care Connection, and is an internationally recognized speaker. Of course, the most important thing is that you are both internationally recognized, which is why you are here on the Nonprofit Coach, because we only have the very best people here on the Nonprofit Coach. And I love your topic. I love the happiness factor. We've talked about this on the Nonprofit Coach many times with many guests, that the doom and gloom of give now or we're going to go out of business and feel sorry for us form of fundraising, while there are examples of how that is successful from time to time, has a shelf life. And I think donors are smarter than that. And when I see happiness in front of doom and gloom, I start feeling happy. So why don't we start off with the donor happiness coach, of course, Shanon Doolittle. Tell us a little bit about your background and why you feel strongly about this topic as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shanon, for such a great here. So my background is I'm in fundraising for 15 years now, and part of that, I started out as an event fundraiser, where I was event, and try to get donors to come to the event, but just give a lot. And what would end up happening is we weren't telling the right stories, or I would work with organizations, even my organization, where a lot of people wanted to focus on stories and put up really shocking photos and really just rattle people into giving all those.
And Vanessa, you are the storytelling nonprofit.com guru. So bring us forward a little bit more in terms of this concept of a role for the donor, because I think when it's doom and gloom, when it's the shocking photos and it's over when we have to go out of business, give by midnight tonight sort of approach, there isn't a role for the donor in that other than the checkbook. But it sounds in storytelling, there's more of an active role of the donor than just the pocketbook.
I would absolutely agree with that. I think that if we want them to feel inspired and happy and see a larger vision that the organization has, and part of it. I think when you tell great stories that show people that vision and align themselves with you, they think that they can be a part of that transformation that they want to feel bigger about all their stories.
This concept of being happy and telling a happy story, here on the Nonprofit Coach, we get into the nitty-gritty. We don't just talk about theory. So it's easy to say that. It's easy to say it's the happy story, it's the hero in the donor. But give us some concrete examples of how, if you've just been in that mode, and the way we've always done it is we tell the horrible things that will happen if you don't give your money. How do you turn that culture around within an organization?
I think part of it is that you have to become a donor within every organization. And what that essentially means is that the donor is a part of every communication that you do. And that's how you turn things around, because when you're focusing on the organization itself, and you're focusing on everything we do as an organization makes things better, you're not giving the donor a role at all. I mean, you're pretty much just saying, hey, write us a check, we'll keep doing what we're doing, and we don't really care about you. And that's just so not a good thing. So I think that's how you turn it around, is you say yourself, how can we do it? And at that point, you start to ask yourself, how does this make others feel? And anytime the answer is, well, it's going to make you feel guilty, it's going to make you feel sad, you're not going to develop a long-lasting relationship.
So we understand from our sound keepers that we are not getting the sound up high enough, so we're going to do this a little bit differently. The microphone and system right here. I think we're going to sound two different areas. So I'm just helping my guests here understand. It's always hard being the first. So
yes.
We have to try out the sound in various different ways. So donor-centric. Okay, you hear that a lot, and here at BBCON, there are lots and lots of sessions that are going to talk to you about being donor-centric. But at the same time, I'm a university, I'm a school, I'm a hospital, I've got a lot of other things going on. So how does my department that I'm involved in actually make that happen?
Really great question. We talked about this yesterday, actually, specifically that when you're in a big institution like a hospital or a university, the best thing you can do to become more donor-centered is to really bring on the light of the service. Everyone has to be on the same team in the same direction, and it's really important to recognize that we can make donors possible and to collaborate well and to really coordinate the messaging, marketing, fundraising, so that you're presenting the same brand.
Again, that sounds so much easier said than done, because particularly for larger organizations that may have fundraising is separate from marketing, separate from communications, PR. My experience has been that some of those folks feel that fundraising is kind of dirty, that kind of messes up my messaging. So what are some of the strategies, concrete things that you can suggest to our listeners and those here listening live here at BBCON on exactly how can you start changing that culture? It's not going to happen overnight, but what are some of the key indicators that you can share with leadership and others to say that this is worth it? It's not just about the money. There's something bigger in it, isn't there?
So I think there's two strategies that you could use. The first is something that I did when I worked in my in-hospital foundation here in a large organization, and that is you ask your marketing department to actually attend some of your fundraising committees with the board of your foundation. You really include them in that so that they understand what's happening and conversations that are going on. So That's one strategy, and that means you also go to marketing meetings. That means that you also say, hey, I would love to go to your premier strategy meetings as well and represent that donor in those meetings. So that's one strategy. And another strategy that you can use as well is pull in your peers. So if you know another university is doing an amazing job with this, get on the phone and say, hey, can you provide some peer support to my executive director or to some VPs in my institution so that they can see that this works? Because coming from me internally, that's not going to move the needle. But of course, if they get, that social proof from a peer, all of a sudden they're going to move that conversation.
Vanessa, this is such an interesting topic because when you start bringing this up, it makes us have to look internally to ourselves. And as fundraisers, we're usually the ones who are pointing at others that they're not doing enough, they're not supporting enough. And we are oftentimes living in class houses because what Shanon is saying is we actually have to be part of that team. We have to engage others as opposed to standing back and saying, you don't engage us enough, you don't play with us enough, you don't support us enough. So what about this whole team, and do we have to do some inner soul searching as fundraisers in terms of how much of that team we really are?
I think so. I think one of the things that's really important is storyline and is that organizations that really come together all have great stories and really great fundraising. They do a really great job at connecting with their colleagues. They really care about each other. They care about the work that they're doing on a daily basis. They're trying to all those things that really make their work good. And I think for colleagues to start talking about that, we have more open dialogue about that. Really want to say, start revisiting the culture, start maybe looking at colleagues versus then transferring to our colleagues.
Those are really very, very helpful tips and very, very concrete because I think we do sort of stand back and point fingers at others and say, I know how we should do this, and if we're not doing it right, it's because somebody else isn't supporting us. And I think flipping that around and saying, what are you actually doing to engage that team, be part of that team, put a friendly face on that team? Because no matter where you are, people can affect successful fundraising at every level, whether it's the person answering the phone or the president of the organization. And if they don't understand that story that should be told and how that is helping every level of the organization. I'll give you an example. At one point in my career, I was the CEO of the University of Maryland Medical Center Foundation, and we had tens of thousands of people who came to that campus whose job every single day was patient care. And then I had about 30 people on my team whose job it was fundraising. And from the perspective of every other person on that, we were the people who threw big parties. That's what they knew about us. They did not have to do any connection between what we raised and their ability to succeed. That was just sort of a fluff of the parties. So part of the storytelling, and so I always go back to you, Shanon, is part of that storytelling is the internal story and the external story. So help us understand how that can be done as a happy storytelling.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me just think about that for a moment in terms of that internal story. I think how you're talking about when you were the CEO of a hospital foundation is very similar in that when I was in a hospital foundation, that internal story that we needed to tell was that we all cared about one another and that honestly we were all going to go in the same direction. So that we had medical directors, or we had people that were on our board, or we had people that would come to some of our meetings to speak on behalf of patients so that we could get there. The other thing is when you connect with service providers or people that you're partnering with, they see you as a partner. So that, as you know, as we start having a donor that maybe comes to the hospital and they're in there overnight, that doctor is going to call me and say, hey, your donor is here. And I can go visit that donor and say, is there anything I can do for you here, right now that's going to be helpful that maybe your benefits can't do for you. So I think the internal story has to be around how do we focus on the donor. So what's going to make you feel really great about the care that you're giving them, and what's going to make us feel really great about the care that we're giving them. It's not about money. At the end of the day, it's not about money. It's taking good care of people and it's making them feel special. That's what's going to make people here. So how can we story that we need to be telling both internally and
And Vanessa, what do you think about this internal story, this external story?
I definitely agree with what Shanon said. I think there's so much more organization to really change the story of our organization. I work with a lot of nonprofits, and oftentimes I see them dealing with this narrative that they're poor, they're under-resourced, they're staff, and this kind of internal story that they tell themselves really fuels their messaging, their marketing, their fundraising to this and that story that they're talking about in the beginning. And the ones that stand out turn around have changed that story. We talk about what the inspiring things they do with the lives they change. They're focusing on the positive, the outcomes that are the great things that they get to do every day. And as soon as they started to change how they felt about the network, their messaging started to change their life to leader. Sure. Okay.
So this topic of storytelling nonprofit, what do you cover on that website? You give examples of great stories that are being told, and at the same time, you give an idea of how they develop. How do they develop that story?
Great question. Yeah, so we cover quite a wide range of content on the blog, and nonprofits are great stories. I'm always curious to learn what other nonprofits are doing a good job on it. So we've gotten really great interviews with a lot of communications and fundraising professionals, a lot of people sharing what they've learned about storytelling, how they do it, what their benefits are. In addition to that, too, I also share some story kind of points as well. I think they know a lot of those properly. How do we work with our colleagues to find those great stories, collect them, and
So, Shanon, so much of storytelling today is social media. So how does social media fit into this overall picture that you're thinking of the happy nonprofit?
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a great question. So when it comes to social media, what you want to make sure that you're doing is, remember, you're only up the list. You've got a few seconds to make an impact. And I think that you need to be using social media to say thank you, to express gratitude to donors. You need to share short snippets of how donor dollars have made an impact and made a change. So it's maybe you're a foster care adoption agency. So maybe every Thursday you have an editorial calendar that on every Thursday we're going to share a story about a foster care that was adopted into a forever family. And then at the same time, we're going to highlight a few donors that made that work possible. You know, maybe on Monday you're just highlighting something about a donor that people wouldn't know so that other donors on your social media feed feel like, wow, I can relate to that other donor. And there's a peer group here that I really love to be part of. This feels like a family. So it's kind of figuring out, you've got 5 days a week basically, and if you're not, doing something on the weekend, figure out your editorial calendar. And every day, Monday through Friday, what are you doing to thank your donor or to share a story in which the donor has some type of impact? So you can constantly reconnect that impact to the fact that it was donor dollars that made it happen.
Vanessa, I hear so often from people who say, well, I can't do that every day. I'm so busy. My answer is usually, if you can't think of something to say in 140 characters, you've got a bigger problem than I can solve. But that's kind of a quick. How do you actually turn that around and really do something on social media?
I was talking to someone recently who said, content is king in this day and age. And I thought it was a really great point.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. What was Queen?
Consistency.
Oh, consistency.
Yeah, consistency. And that's something that's so crazy with social media. The more that you are consistent, you show up, you engage with people, you have conversations, not one-sided negative projecting your message to the world. You start to really cultivate that great community around social media, around the work that you're doing. It's a really powerful tool. In terms of making time for it, I think an editorial calendar is a great place to start if you organize yourself and to just schedule regular time in your calendar every day. Maybe it's 15 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes, wherever it is. Same time every day, you're able to schedule things or bringing content, wherever that may be. And I think that helps to build that
I love this concept of consistency and viewing this as just a regular part of your workday, just like It would be hard to believe that an executive today would not read their email daily, would not check the phone calls daily, would not. So these are habits, aren't they?
Yep.
This is how you perceive a sense of community.
Yep.
So talk to me a little more about how all this fits into an overall sense of community and not just sort of a megaphone yelling at your community.
Yeah. I love that you said consistency is key, and it's all the C's, consistency and community and all of those good things. So you have to think of it as a family. So there are things that we do as habits, or even I don't ever like to use an analogy about maybe marriages, but in this sense it's true that you got to work really hard at it, or things will start to fall apart. So the whole thing about community is pulling information from the community. We always say, especially in social media, nothing kills a conversation faster than a period or an exclamation mark. So you constantly want to have your last sentence end in a question mark, because the whole idea is I'm sharing something with you, but what's more important to me is what's going on in your life. What's more important to me is relating back to you and seeing how I can be of service to you. So I would say that builds a sense of community, constantly asking for feedback or asking to know a little bit more about your donor, your supporters. I love that whole adage about ask for money, get advice, ask for advice, get money, and I think that's very true. So you have to constantly ask yourself, am I consistently asking people to tell me a little bit more about themselves and why they made us success? Those kind of questions for the community.
Whoa. I can't tell you how many nonprofits that I have given exactly that advice to, and what I hear back is, whoa, wait a minute, what if somebody posts something mean? What if somebody posts something untrue? And apparently nonprofit organizations in that just the mere thought of someone saying something mean is enough to have us go hiding under a rock. So what do you say to someone who is nodding their head to this entire segment and saying, yeah, ladies, you already know what we're talking about. Oh, but we would never be able to do that because, what do you say to them?
Well, I think that's a representative of much larger problem in the sector that we're so risk taker. And so much of the things we want to do, where we want to push the envelope, training your team, look at community in new ways. And I think it's always a small step process. So you're not going to dive into the whole goal thing. So you have to find a little action that you can take where you put something social, trying to think a little bit new and a little bit different. Whether that's maybe posting a story on your social media channel, or whether it's asking one question where you're actually getting feedback on that channel. Try and see what happens. Evaluate it. I think doing evaluation of what you're doing online is really important for your
Yeah, I really could not agree with you more. I mean, what I always share with folks is that it's about being part of that community, not just expecting the community to be there for you. So the really hard thing for most people to get a concept around is, if you want to be active in social media, you have to learn to be social. And being social is very scary. I mean, for a lot of people, it was scary in high school and scary now. Because you really do have to engage. So the expectation is, well, if I send out a tweet, then people will love me and they will send us money. But engaging in a dialogue is really where your long-term solution is going to be. I often share, and I want to ask you both to sort of reflect on this, that one of there are lots of scary things about the internet, of course, but one of the wonderful things about the internet is that it does over time tend to find that little place. So that if someone says something mean, untrue, there are others besides you who should be part of your community who can say, well, that's really interesting, but that's not my experience. My experience is this. There's nothing more powerful than someone who's had that real life experience sharing it who's not on good steps. So reflect on how does that turn the discussion around.
I like that, and here's something that I do on social media when there is something, when somebody comes and asks a question. What I will immediately do is either retweet it, or if it's on Facebook, I will post a question that says, I would love to hear what others in our community think about this comment, so that it really is putting it on our allies and our ambassadors to do that work for us. Because in a sense, when they start to be super confident about doing that for us, that means I've got a whole other level of engagement going on with my supporters. So I think that's part of it, is to rally around your community and to let them do the work for you. But the other thing that I would say too is going back to this idea of being of service to your community. One of the things that I had talked about yesterday is that you have to find ways to serve your donors. So, say for example, if you're a pet shelter, I said that we had surveyed people and said, what's on your mind right now? And it was around the 4th of July. And some people had said, gosh, it's 4th of July, my dog's going to go crazy. And so what we did is we put out a mini ebook on how to make your pet feel comfortable around fireworks. I mean, so that's how you're of service. So it's not only asking your community to do things for you, you have to put money in the piggy bank before you take money out to ask them to do this for you.
Yeah, that's a really great example, Shannon. I like that one a lot. I think that when we talk about building this community of people and building empathy, developing champions, developing people who are diehard advocates for our cause, I think it's really important to be able to share those stories that our community shares with us and be able to create that dialogue between them. I think one of the most powerful things for storytelling is the empathy that creates. We share real life experiences that other people really see themselves in, and they understand why they're part of our larger mission, why that's inspiring to them. And so I think, like as Shanon said, when you repost a comment that maybe you didn't agree with and you ask others to share their thoughts on that, you really start to build experiences and make those connections.
That really seems like sort of advanced social media, to have that level of confidence in your own service model to say, here's something that we don't necessarily agree with, but what do you folks think of it? And I think that level of confidence then sends a signal to donors to say, we're with the winning team. This is a team that isn't just with their hand out every minute, but they are so confident in their model that they can actually engage a community. So let's bring us back to where we started, and this whole notion of a happy donor and telling the story, that donor being a hero and being donor-centered. What is the balance between what you're doing offline versus what you're doing online? And how does a small shop, we have a lot of small shops who listen to the show or who are at BBCON, how do they find that balance because they still have a day job? They still do have to raise money. So how do they justify for themselves the balance in the
I think the best answer I could give to that is that it really depends on where your donors are. So if you don't know how they want to be communicated with, it's hard to make this decision about where to spend that time. So if you have the opportunity to survey them, which you always do, it's a great idea to find out what channels they're using when they're out online, how they want to hear from you. And I think that'll really help you to prioritize what your options are and how you can best get in touch with them and build a community online.
Yeah, I agree as well. Just this idea about balance is that a lot of times some organizations just go to shiny squirrel and they think, gosh, what's the next big thing on social media? I need to be on social media. I think that's a great point, that you have to know where your donors live, where they're getting their information, and to say, you know what, we're going to still do print and we're going to test, but we're going to test what are we getting back in terms of feedback. If there's a reply envelope, are we actually getting donations from there? Sending out emails and saying, gosh, what's the open rate on these emails? What are we doing right? Test subject lines to see what resonates more with donors that's going to get them to click it. Look at your donate button. How many people are clicking on it? What's the conversion rate on it? This seems like advanced stuff, but it really is. You just got to get good with your data. And data is not scary. And the one thing that I love is, and data doesn't lie. That's the great thing. Anecdotally, you don't know the truth, but data tells you what it is. And so I would say just get used to looking at your data, because that's going to help you be more effective. That's going to tell you, should I be spending more time online or offline? Who's engaging with us more? And that's going to get you to a better place.
Well, Shanon is always so smart to tie this all the way back to why we're here at BBCON. So data is important. And I think, Shanon said, it doesn't lie, which is terrific. But I think for a lot of people, it is very scary because it might have seemed easier when I could go with my gut, or I could go with sort of the warmth and the truths. But now I have to actually manage my facts. And that, I think, really can help your budget, but it also requires a level of skill. So for a lot of our listeners who may still be hoping that this whole inter-ready thing is kind of a fad, how do we help them feel comfortable that they can succeed in this video?
Yeah, great question, Ted. I think picking a couple of key metrics to look at is a really great place to start. People often get overwhelmed. There's so much they can do, so many things they can be measuring. They don't have to do it all, and I think that's a big sense that, they really do have to be on every social media channel, doing everything all the time. And so to be able to pick a couple of key metrics that they can look at and feel really confident in, to build that confidence, I think is a really great place to start. Any solutions?
Well, we are just running to the end of your segment, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad that we started with the donor confidence coaching and the story of becoming a nonprofit guru. So before I let you go, ladies, please put your name again and how can our listeners reach you?
Yeah. So I would love to talk with any of your listeners. I think that I learned from everybody. So if you could come over and say hi, I would love that. You can find me at Shanon, SHANON, Doolittle with 2O's.com. And there's a little contact form. And I just love talking with people. So don't be surprised if when you leave your number, I call you. Because I always love learning from other people that are, like you said, in the trenches, doing the work, trying to help them figure out what's the best tactic to use.
Likewise, I always enjoy talking to people, hearing about their work, they're up to. If you get in touch with me at storyfulnonprofit.com, and also very active on Twitter, so you can find me at.
Ladies, that was Shanon Doolittle and Vanessa Chase here live from Nashville here at BBCON 2014. We're going to have a word from Google, and when we come back, we will have our next guest here on Nonprofit.
Life gets busy. Wouldn't it be nice to have a central place where you could save what's on your mind? With Google Keep, you can stay on top of your world by quickly and easily organizing everything you want to remember. No matter where you are.
Finalize door list for Thursday's gig.
So when you find inspiration, you can file away your ideas. And Google Keep stores them safely across all your devices. And when the time comes, you'll have everything covered. Save what's on your mind. Google Keep.
We are live here, back here on the Nonprofit Coach. Don't forget, this is a live call-in show. You can call into 347-324-3080. Make sure you press number 1 to let me know that you're on the switchboard and want to ask a question and not just listening, which you are, of course, also welcome to do by calling 347-324-3080. You can join us in the chat room. There are a number of people there. You can ask questions there, or you can email me today at tedhart@tedharts.com. Next up here on the Nonprofit Coach, we have Pat Donnellon. She is an experienced executive with a keen interest in the nonprofit sector. She has been fortunate to combine her interests in technology, fundraising, nonprofits, and leadership in her personal life and professional career. Pat joined Blackbaud in 2011 as Vice President of Marketing. Previously, she served as CEO of Mission Research, makers of GiftWorks fundraising software for small nonprofits in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The first decade of her career was spent as systems engineer and project manager with EBS. Now, the topic that we've got here today, Pat, I do just want to make a note. We are having a little bit of sound trouble, so we're speaking into here and speaking into here as well. And so those of you who are listening, we are working on that sound problem. Now, Pat is here to talk to us about Blackbaud's Razor's Edge NXT and Financial Edge NXT, and we are very keen to know about both of these. So, Pat, take it away.
Great, thanks for having me. I just came out of the roadmap session for Razor's Edge NXT, and unfortunately, the Financial Edge NXT session was at the same time, so I couldn't be in two places at once. But it was personally gratifying to watch the reaction of the crowd and the excitement of the crowd and the Twitter feed and the palpable relief and excitement that the Razor's Edge NXT is the answer to a lot of things. On my way out of the session, I heard from a lot of the people leaving the Financial Edge NXT session who delivered similar feedback. So I think our goal to excite and delight our customers here at BBCON was met and even exceeded. So just a little bit about what Razor's Edge NXT and Financial Edge NXT are. They're new solutions. Actually, I'll focus on Razor's Edge NXT first. It's a new solution that we call smart. It's a smart solution and for fundraising and relationship management. It basically takes the foundational power of the Razor's Edge and adds all kinds of innovation, all delivered in the cloud. It's going to be accessible by a limited number of users. It features prescriptive analytics, built-in payment processing, strengthened marketing outreach. Everything that you need is included in it. All of this is delivered in a brand new, role-based user interface that is designed for how nonprofits work. So I think what got people really excited is we initially are focusing on the fundraising role in the nonprofit. And there were actually demos where you could see the new interface that not only serves up information in a beautiful, clean, intuitive way, but it also offers suggestions on what to do next. So it's based on information in your data. So if something's missing, it'll suggest how to add it. If somebody hasn't been reached, it'll notify you that somebody needs to be contacted. So it's proactive in recognizing what needs to happen and offering up those recommendations.
So for a lot of my listeners, probably not so much people here at BBCON, because I think if you come to BBCON, you are maybe a little bit more with it.
Yes.
But there are a lot of listeners, or maybe even a lot of customers of Blackbaud who have been long-time customers of Blackbaud. And all they really know is that legacy system that they bought long ago that was there when they inherited their job, and they turned out the computer, and it still processes gifts and it still sends out reports. Blackbaud has grown up a lot since just the legacy data software business. This is sort of that next generation of cloud and intuitive approach to using Blackbaud. So for those who may not be familiar with the direction that Blackbaud is going and why NXT is that next big step, how does it connect those?
Yeah. So we all know the big trends that are out there, or maybe we don't, but there's a lot happening. The world is going more mobile. People aren't working in their offices. They're on the go. They're using tablets. Because that's a trend we need to capitalize. I'm looking at Ted with all those devices. Basically, the whole plethora right in front of me. So we know that that's the way people work, and that's the way we need to provide our solutions. So that's one big trend. We also know that in the cloud, if we can put our solutions in the cloud, it will be easier for organizations. It'll eliminate a lot of the IT hassle that they experience. It can always be current, always on, not have to deal with upgrades, etc. We know that online fundraising is where the world is going. So we've built that in. We want everyone to be able to maximize that, not even emerging, but very well established and defined trend in movement to online. We know that crowdfunding is emerging as a very strong source of fundraising for organizations and that they need to capitalize on. We actually integrated our crowdfunding solution, Everyday Hero, into Razor's Edge NXT. So the bottom line is there's a lot happening in the world of fundraising, the world of technology. We have a lot of deep understanding within Blackbaud of best practices that we try to bake into the solution so that it's actually a solution that will make you better at your job by using it. We also get wonderful feedback daily by the thousands of customers that you see here, telling us what they need to do their jobs more effectively. So we try to incorporate all of that in, the best practices, learning from our customers, the major happening with the best those cutting edge modern technology.
this is very exciting, of course, for a lot of people. And when you are a customer who has relied on Blackbaud for so long, and now to have all of these tools come together, I love the fact that you have thought about bottom line, underlying IT needs of nonprofits. Because whether you're a small nonprofit or a large nonprofit, IT solutions are often the hardest things to manage because you may not have that expertise, and you may lack the ability to hire people who have that kind of expertise. Particularly if you're a small nonprofit, but even if you're a large nonprofit, you're often sort of end of the line, end of the food chain before anybody really pays attention to their needs. This sounds like NXT really puts you at the head of the class without needing to have the expertise. Is that right?
I couldn't have said it better myself, Ted. In fact, you want to help our marketing team out a little bit. You said that very well. But really, we want organizations to focus on their mission, and everybody here wants to focus on their mission. We want to make sure that they always have the most current solution that we have. So with Greater Veg NXT and Financial NXT, we're going to be having regular releases every 1 to 2 months. And in the past, that might have involved get a release. It might have come once or twice a year. It would involve scheduling time. It would involve going to every organization. It would involve major organizational upheaval. Now you're always current. You're always on. And all of those, imagine all the saved hours and time and expense that now can be focused and redirected and more effective.
Well, this again, is extremely exciting for a lot of people. And here on the Nonprofit Coach Street, we do really focus on sort of the mid-level, smaller nonprofits who don't have the capacity to hire lots of experts and consultants to come in and help them. So NXT is really there to come to their aid and make it easy. You don't even really need to understand the underlying technology now. NXT is going to make it possible for you to really just do the job you want to do and not sort of be that expert IT professional in your office. Is that right?
Again, you've got it. And better yet, we're actually going to be, on top of all of that, we're going to be expanding the access that people in organizations have with and experience with Greater Veg NXT. We're offering unlimited usage so that everybody in the organization can experience the great smartness that the solution is still providing. So we want to put basically the data and the power to all the people in the organization, not just a limited few that can understand it, interpret it, and help those people by empowering their fundraisers and frontline people, help the DBA by training them up to do more strategic and effective things. So by offering this in the cloud, we're able to put it in the hands of everybody very easily.
You mentioned that when you first started. I'm so glad that you brought us back to that. I did want to explore that with you because what that says to me is that Blackbaud is inviting creativity in the use of data. Now that it's accessible by others within your organization, people frontline finance, people frontline administration now can be more knowledgeable and run reports and see what's happening in fundraising rather than sort of going to the Oracle or fundraising. And that says to me that this is going to expand the capacity of fundraising to be ever present within an organization just at the time that they need it to have a financial organization.
Absolutely. I think with Greater Veg NXT, we're going to be putting unprecedented information, intelligence, power in the hands of every single person in that organization. And by the way, I said that we were starting with a fundraising role. There are many more right behind it to be added. So we're not stopping with fundraising experience. We're rapidly adding additional experiences to really positively impact every single role in nonprofit organization.
Well, it's very exciting to have you here to talk about NXT. But before I let you go, I'm really just very curious about Vice President of Marketing for Blackbaud, because Blackbaud has expanded and grown, and there are so many different products that are available, so many companies that have come together under this umbrella. That's got to be a challenge to your position
So you're right, and we do have a large and growing organization, and I'm vice president of marketing for our general market business unit, which is really focused on the needs of the small mid-market, kind of like what you said you're focused on. So that is where I focus. And yes, we have had a very vast portfolio. I think what you're seeing here today, and probably anybody in attendance at BBCON, is that a new Blackbaud is emerging, and we are more confidently directing our people into the portfolio of the future. Oh no, you think good. I don't think it's for radio. Yes. Waiting to make that shift. Yeah. In any case, it is challenging and it's also rewarding. At this point, we have solutions for nonprofits wherever they are in their life cycle. Look at our CRM and relationship management portfolio. We have each category for the organizations that need something small and simple. We have Raider's Edge 7 that people know and love. Now we have this very exciting addition of Raider's Edge NXT coming soon. We have Luminate CRM for organizations that are using and need to use the Salesforce platform. And we have Blackbaud CRM for our enterprise work. It's actually wonderful to be able to serve nonprofits of all shapes and sizes, regardless of their needs. It does take a little while to make sure that everything that is clear to the whole market, but hopefully they see that we're covering it all and can meet the needs of almost any nonprofit.
Well, you must be very excited to be here at BBCON and just feel the energy in this room that we're in and in all the sessions. What does BBCON say to a marketer like you in terms of positioning Blackbaud as a market?
So our theme is Power On, and that's kind of the vibe at Blackbaud these days. We have a new leader, and Mike Shanon, who looks the whole culture is energized, motivated. We have a new day. I think anybody who's here would have to agree that there is new energy, new focus on quality, new solutions, new expertise emerging like never before. And Power On is pretty apropos to the vibe of here today. So it's a great time to work at Blackbaud, and it's a great time to be a Blackbaud customer.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And Blackbaud has always been very supportive of the Nonprofit Coach radio show. And I was the founder of the Philanthropy Foundation all the way back to Bob Sawalski was on our board of directors. So we have a long affiliation with Blackbaud. So it's great to see that the company keeps reinventing itself and staying relevant within an extremely changing market, and one that for a lot of nonprofits is important but not core. And so finding a technology partner that you can rely on, I think is part of the secret for that success. So I do need to move on to my next guest, but before I let you go, please let my guests know how they can reach you.
Okay, this will be a little bit of a mouthful, but anyone can email me at marypat, push it all together, MARY, Donnellon, it's David, ONN, ELLON, at Blackbaud.com. I'm also on Twitter at MP, and you can find me on LinkedIn also.
Terrific. Well, Mary Pat, thank you so much for being my guest here live at BBCON here in Nashville. This is the Nonprofit Coach radio show. We're going to have a little word from Google Apps, and then we'll be back with our next guest.
When you have a great idea and need to work with others to bring it to life, how do you do it? Sometimes it's tough because the people you work with are in different places, with different schedules, using different devices. Google Apps lets you bring ideas to life with others. Here's how. Start with email that offers more. Gmail does more than send and receive emails. It connects people and lets you chat instantly while viewing a snapshot of your team's relevant activities and access to everything they've shared with you. With Google Docs, there's only one version for everyone to work on. Share easily with the right people without email attachments or compatibility hassles.
We did the session yesterday.
And work together on the same docs at the same time in a way that simply makes sense. Edit and interact easily with integrated social commenting. Google Calendar makes it easy to share schedules and find times to meet, and schedule or update meetings with a few clicks.
I do immediately live right.
Everyone can't be in the same place at the same time, but Google Apps lets you work together from any place. With multi-way video chat, you'll feel like you're all in the same room. While screen sharing and integration with Google Docs lets you work with more people from anywhere, on any device, even on your mobile phone or tablet. Work with any team at any time, from any place, on any device. Google Apps. Work in the future, today. To learn more, go to google.com/apps.
And we are back here live on the Nonprofit Coach Radio Show with our next guest. Tom Pate is Vice President for Cloud Transformation at Blackbaud. For 25 years, he has been all about organizational transformation across both profit and nonprofit sectors. He is currently responsible for driving Blackbaud's internal efforts to become a cloud-oriented company. Of course, we just heard from Mary Pat the excitement around NXT and the announcement there, which is all about moving into the cloud. And he also serves as board chair for the Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana Make-A-Wish chapter, so that's quite admirable of you. Also joining us during this segment is Tony Board, who is Blackbaud's Chief Financial Officer and Senior Vice President of Finance and Administration. He has served as Chief Financial Officer at Blackbaud since November 2011, and as you might expect, he's responsible for financial reporting and controls and all the things that drive people crazy, particularly fundraisers. So, gentlemen, we are here live on the Nonprofit Coach, and our topic really is about strategy. And we're hearing about all the great products, all the companies coming together, and how Blackbaud is really focused on helping nonprofits, regardless of size, be able to succeed in an ever-changing world. So we're going to start off with Tom to talk about this notion of strategy. I'm going to go immediately over to Tony, who's going to help us understand how you see this idea of CFOs.
Thanks, Ted. We spent yesterday with about 200 of our friends here at the convention talking about the importance of strategy. Our observation is that while you can have a great set of tools to enable your processes, enable your fundraising, which we, of course, believe we have at Blackbaud, and they're getting better, as you heard Mary Pat talking about NXT, it's very important, perhaps equally, if not more important, to know where you're going. It's like driving a car, no idea where you're going to end up. And you're delivering random acts of fundraising or random acts of program delivery. So our message, along with the power of the technology, is know where you're going, have a strategy, understand the environment, understand the things that are influencing you as a charity, and make sure that you and your board have thought through how to deliver those things, how to manage those things, and have set out the 3-year view. Too many charities, too many boards focus on next year, what we have to do next year in order to get this done. And that's important, right? Equally, if not more important, to understand what's happening over the next 3 years. So have a strategy in place, understand the environment, think through the options, think through the 5 things you've got to do in order to deliver on that strategy, and then feed those into your budgeting process to have happen this year.
Thanks, Tom, for leading there. We had an interesting discussion session yesterday. I got some good questions today that we talked about strategy. We spent quite a bit of time walking through, I think, the precept of the discussion was budgeting, as you said earlier, which can always be a pitfall and fun time for everybody. But we started out speaking of how do you make a budgeting cycle more effective. We spent quite a bit of time going through the fact that, and then Tom's point, building a long-range strategy into that plan and how you're going to utilize the resources you have available, which we know in this space are always limited. Seldom have we ever found that we have too many resources. And we had a good discussion about building the strategy plan, how to go about reallocating resources each year, building it annual operating plan that delivers towards the goals that you've outlined in your long-range plan, which what you want to accomplish in the next 3 to 5 years. As you said, that the environment's changing quickly, right? How people give is changing. Millennials coming up, them giving online and all the crowd fundraisers. There's a lot going on, and all the more reason we believe that you have tools and solutions like we offer, but also how you practice your business. And we walk through concepts of building annual plans that drive your long-range strategy. Those then result in budget, right, which is really kind of the result of your annual operating plans. And that you really need to revisit the metrics and goals you set for yourself throughout the year, so that you don't wait to the end of the year to realize you're off track, right? So you can make quick adjustments. Some good discussions on that. Some interesting discussions on interaction that nonprofits have with the boards. Tom and I have first-hand knowledge of that. We both been on Make-A-Wish. Tom's still on Make-A-Wish. That's where we met years ago. Make-A-Wish. Tom really and the team have done some phenomenal things for Make-A-Wish along this strategic approach that's really made a big difference in that chapter. It was some really exciting questions and some hard questions to answer. A couple of them we got into. I don't know how far we want to talk about today, but the interaction with the board, with the organizations themselves, and who's actually driving the strategies. And we had one good question was about a bit of complacency, right? So the organization was doing quite well and was meeting their annual objectives. And one of the questions we got was, how do we change that? Really think the work needs to do something more or better or different when the board and the leadership team were comfortable with that. So this was I thought very good feedback.
Tony, it's such a rare opportunity to have someone with your knowledge status that has an actual CFO here. I really want to ask you to delve into, or my listeners and those here at BBCON, there's often a disconnect between the chief fundraiser, the fundraising team, and the financer, or the CFO, who, first of all, sees all kinds of fungible and things moving on around, which we know fundraising is not true, but also just sees this as a process where you go through the door and not a series of relationships. How do you build those bridges, and what are the messages that are meaningful to CFOs that can hear that the CFOs will actually listen?
That's a really good question. We hit on a little bit yesterday in our session as well. I think one of our discussion topics got on to how do I convince my CFO to free up the purse strings, right? Because we needed more resources to put that out to keep more money in your advertising. The question to meet our long-term goals, right? Which is raise more money. And one of the discussion topics we got into on that question was the fact that we should actually make certain that you manage the donor you have, right? I think we had that in Mike's other comments and some of the other sessions. We talked a lot about donor retention, making sure that you're taking advantage of the folks that you already have in-house, right? That already support the organization. I think that goes with CFOs as well. And Tom knows this firsthand, and I pushed on him, and I pushed on every chair of the board I've been on about making sure we nurture those relationships. And I think CFOs are no different than you as any other individual giving to an organization. You have to pull on heartstrings for the day. You have to see that you're actually adding value. And so the CFO, you're talking to them, what is that mission you're delivering on, and how do you ensure the CFO that it's a big return on the investment? So more so than many, and you're seeing this more and more with organizations, they want to know what return they're getting on that investment. Right? Not that I'm just going to give $10,000 more, but know that $9,500 of it, $10,000 is actually going to go to whatever that mission is. So I think it's really critical, not only from nurturing that relationship so they give again next year and get it built into their budgets, right, and it becomes a recurring gift, but also ensure that they understand what you're doing, right, that they so carefully thought about things.
So to them, learning that language that maybe is natural for fundraisers to understand, and speaking of the language. Speaking of which, Tom, this is very, very basic, but I find on our show this comes up quite a bit. Just the basic concept of what is the cloud confuses people. And you are in charge of the Blackbaud in that direction. So
So how do you tell that story, and how do we make sure everyone here at BBCON and all of my listeners understand why is that a value and why should that have to be immediately scary?
Thanks, Ted. And there are actually lots of people in charge of moving different parts of Blackbaud in that direction here. So we're moving our product in that direction. We're not abandoning our on-premise users, but we're moving our product in that direction. Moving our services hosting in that direction. We're moving our internal product in that direction. The cloud is actually more up to those who might hear this. Yeah, you can come and talk about that. But the cloud is really more of a movement than a specific thing. It switches across lots of things. The cloud is, of course, as Mike mentioned this morning, the way you deliver services now. It's Google, it's my checkbook, it's LinkedIn, it's all those things. And the nonprofit industry has been fairly slow to embrace that. You're seeing an acceleration. A lot of benefits for the nonprofit. So from a pure software perspective, you should expect the software to evolve more rapidly because you're not managing all the code floating out in the market. You should expect greater security because you're not managing all the intricacies at each premise. You should you're able to scale that with a company like Blackbaud managing that stuff for you. You should expect rapid evolution of that software. You should expect that the software will be more usable because you've got a lot of people feeding it. And you should expect, frankly, a much better economy as a nonprofit because you don't have to have the IT folks running all that stuff. Every nonprofit I've ever been associated with scrap for IT resources. So if I could give part of that problem to Blackbaud or something else, then that's a great way to get economies of scale. But it's more than just the software. It includes really the way you think about delivery, speed to value. So how much training did you do the last time you logged into Google? None, right? So that's a challenge for us to figure out how to deliver our products in a way in which you turn them on, they always work, they're always on, they're always useful, they're delivered real time. And that's the concept behind it. It's not scary in the slightest, but it is a change, right? People who say, boy, I got to hold all this data in my shop, whatever my shop is, that's the only way to be secure. I think probably 5 years from now, we're going to think about that, and then I put all that data in after. Then we sort of think about checkbooks and things like that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you brought that topic up because I have that discussion with my listeners on a pretty regular basis. And what I always try to share with them is where you're concerned about security on the internet, certainly you should be aware of encryption technology, how does it work. But there, in my estimation, there's a far bigger security concern for most nonprofit organizations who have all their data sitting on a server or on a desktop in their office, no security whatsoever, and there's no backup, or the backup is never been tested. So if it's meaningful to decide if they're going to take that home with them, or if the building burns down, they got no place to go. Whereas now with the products available from the Blackbaud, how does that make sense?
Well, I'm certainly not the expert on security, so I won't pretend to be, but conceptually, the difference is I'm going to use a crime analogy. Your big crimes, robbing a bank versus knocking over a store. So if a bank gets robbed, everybody hears about it. If Target gets hacked, everybody hears about it. But what you don't hear about is the multiple small robberies where somebody broke into a store and took that. When you actually look at the crime statistics, it's way bigger. You don't hear about, now if I just extend that to the number of times something gets dropped, lost, a cup of coffee gets spilled in the server, and all the data disappears. All that stuff suggests that it is infinitely better for you to have somebody who's really good at managing all that stuff take care of that stuff for you. And should you kick the tires on the security? Absolutely, you should kick the tires on the security. Should you kick our tires on that? Absolutely, you should. I would expect nothing less. But to believe that it's not safer in one place that's managed with professionals all around it all the time, as opposed to your office or a desk, you're really not paying much attention if you think about that. And certainly, guys with long technical degrees explain all that stuff in lots of detail, but you have to be listening to professional technical. We're very, very good at security and making sure that the data that are used is trusted.
concept that you brought up that, IT is difficult for most nonprofits, those smaller and mid-sized nonprofits, but even larger nonprofits, as I was just talking to Mary Pat, that even here in this large organization that has the IT team, the fundraising development, the art department is usually at the far end of the food chain before they get any kind of support. So having a company like Blackbaud that is so dedicated on making the technology easier, making it less likely that you have to have IT employees within your operation really is a really big can be a budget saver. So we're going to go back to our resident expert here, Tony. Lots of changes happened on my product the last several years. Lots of new companies creating the whole. How is all of that coming together? Well, it's certainly exciting, as you can see here, with some of the announcements on our legacy products, Rachel's Edge, NXT, and Financial Edge, NXT, Blackbaud CRM 4.0. A lot of stuff going on. Legacy products. Some of the really compelling things that come out of our recent acquisitions is the expansion we get with that really big site, the K-12 space, the acquisition we just did with Travis a couple of months ago. For the first time in many years, acquisitions done recently with Doolittle, MicroEdge, has been focused on non-fundraising acquisition. So it's really near adjacency. We will expand the capability and the functionality of the products that we have. It's interesting on Doolittle Hill is also the components from Doolittle Hill was the largest front end of the schools, right? How do you interact with kids and parents and sports and all of those pieces? And a couple of years now integrating with what we always had Blackbaud was the back end of the school, right? All those pieces. So I think it gives a much more robust, compelling solution now for K-12s. MicroEdge gives us a complete work that we have planned, which is branding side of things, foundations, branding. We're hopeful over the years what will happen is we'll take the fundraising side of the organization that we've always been such a good partner with and couple that now with the foundation side of the branding. So it should be exciting. And I expect more of our acquisitions in the future will be focused on those kind of near adjacent and feature functionality and getting into we're going to just take a very quick break here, and then we'll be back with Tom and Tony to wrap up the show today. So we will be right back.
Every day, millions of people are online, many of whom want to help, volunteer, and donate to a good cause. Nonprofit organizations can use many Google tools to reach potential donors around the world and raise more money. And as an approved nonprofit, it doesn't cost a thing. It's all free. Google Grants helps you promote your website with free advertising on Google.com through the AdWords program. With Google AdWords, you create ads and choose words or phrases related to your nonprofit organization. When people search on Google using one of your phrases, your ad will appear next to the Google search results under the Sponsored Links section. AdWords allows you to target certain geographic areas, dates, and times of day for your ads to appear. YouTube for Nonprofits is another tool that can boost donations to your organization. The program offers a number of perks that get your message out there and drive viewers to take action and donate. You can list your organization on YouTube's nonprofit channel and add call to action overlays on your videos to drive viewers to donate. Need help analyzing your website traffic and marketing effectiveness? Google Analytics is a free tool that will give you rich insight and help you increase the number of people that visit and donate to your site. Google Analytics can be invaluable to many people in your organization, such as development directors, marketing staff, and your web team. There are many other tools that can help you reach more donors and raise funds, like Google Checkout, where you can process credit card donations with no transaction fee, Google Sites to create a free website, and Website Optimizer, where you can figure out the best landing pages to turn site visitors into donors. To get started, apply for Google for Nonprofits today.
Remember, our podcasts and archives are always available 24 hours a day at tedhart.com. Click on radio links. If you're listening live today, the phone lines are open. Call in and ask a question by dialing 347-324-3080. Now, back to the Nonprofit Coach with Ted Hart.
And we are back here. We're just going to wrap up with Tom Pate and Tony Moore. Gentlemen, I just want to give you an opportunity to have one last comment to send our guests and maybe Tom away with, and also make sure that our guests know how to reach you. So we'll start with Tom.
Thanks, Ted. In keeping with the theme, but I would urge our guests on your show to be on lots of things I could urge them to do, I suppose, but in keeping with our theme, I urge them to make sure that you challenge your board, challenge your leadership, take a leadership stance on developing a strategy. So strategy is not something that sits on the shelf, it's something that should be a living document, it should be part of what drives your operating plan. And if you don't have one, if you've ever seen a movie supposed to do it, there's a moment where they say, everybody have a movie value, if you don't have one, get one. You don't have a clear strategy that articulates where the organization should be in the next 3 years, then you really need to get one. Let me illustrate that for you. And that strategy should consider the things that have to happen in order to achieve it. So I'll illustrate that for you in the How Effective Can Think This chapter. We ran about 800 wishes a year, and we know that that's the first accomplishment, but we also know that's not the goal. The goal is to grant 100 wishes to share rate, that'd be about 1,500. So if we are content year after year to say, well, 800 plus 5%, I think it's worth evaluating that goal. So instead, we have to say, okay, what are we going to do to do that now? And that causes us to question the things we're doing. And to bring that to life for you, it causes us to invest in somebody who's got corporations to hospital. Because if we grant lots of wishes, you got to have lots of kids to receive those wishes, and you got to have wishes coming in. Now, having just sat around the room, given everybody plus 5% budgeting cycle, we have gone from, I don't know, 5%, with our CFO, it's 840, right? So you just take forever, but by strategically thinking through that, by finding the key investment points we have to say, that's what everyone gets. And it clarified, and it actually answered a whole bunch of questions. It made all the questions of where we're going to put our money for the next 2 years, it just went away, because we said, here are the 5 things we've got to get put down. While everybody had needs, nobody ever had enough resources. We brought our leadership team to a process to agree. So I'm going to leave your audience with one message. The theme is going to be challenge your board, challenge your leadership, drive a strategy. It doesn't have to be 500 pages sitting, it could be 3 pages. And translate that into 2, 3, 4 actionable items for the year. As for reaching me, I'm fairly easy to reach. My name is simpler than Mary Pat, as you listen to the last decade. Tom.Pate, at Blackbaud.com.
Thank you, Tom. When I think about strategy and your question, Mama, wow, even it's an important topic for all of us from a strategic perspective. Even if you have large resources, as we right, we've got a large IT team that reports to me and have a CIO who's got regular money, infrastructure, security, backup, and disaster recovery, and all of those things. We use data centers for all of our on-premise solutions that we run our business, right? And I use to close our books and report as a public company. And our strategy is to move to the cloud. So I would argue this is something we would need to contemplate as part of our strategy. We launched 6 new systems this year and replaced 21 old disparate IT systems. Tom Pate's been a big help with that, as Todd Land has. All 6 of those new platforms are in the cloud, and we don't own license. So they're all rented, and they're all in the cloud. Why? Because it's a better answer on the phone. It's a better return on investment, better security. You have the latest and greatest at all times. It's a good means of helping you manage your customization. We always want to customize the product we want to use it. The nice thing about renting products in the cloud is more of a commodity approach. So by definition, you're not going to customize. Everybody's using best practice. You're always on the latest version. You always have the latest version of security controls, right? The latest version of security software. You're going to be on the latest, greatest hardware. You don't have to go through upgrade cycles. You don't have to go through the cycle of buying hardware and software support. So I would urge you to think about that as part of your strategy as well as your longer-term plans for the organization itself. And as far as contact, easy as well.
Tony and Tom, thank you so much for being with us live here in Nashville at BBCON 2014. Now, next up, We have a very special guest. Jeff Shanon is here to spend a few moments. I promised you, Jeff, that you have. I understand that he's late, so I'm going to give Jeff a few moments. I promised that Rick was here as well to step in and pinch hit here when we didn't think we had a guest. So, Jeff, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your company up in Canada and what you do for nonprofits, why you are here at BBCON.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the introduction. Again, my name is Jeff Shanon. I work with fundraising solutions. We are research and Blackbaud consultants here in Canada, and I'm here at BBCON to share an audio to what's happening to the exciting Blackbaud has just that through the research and session, which is going to be great for new customers, existing customers, state-of-the-art.
And how can our listeners reach you?
They can tweet me if they want, at JEFFGIGNAC. They can email me, jeff@jhsolutions.com. I also encourage everyone to check out the hashtag BBCON today, as there was lots of tweeting by myself and other people about all these features. That's going to be an NXT. I know I'm very fast talking. There's a lot more to you than myself. Good comments and cheers from the crowd.
That's Jeff Shanon here live in Nashville TN. I know we do. I think we have a final guest here on the nonprofit side. Robert Barker is the co-founder of Barker and Scott Consulting. As a principal of Barker and Scott Consulting, does assist leading regional, national, and international nonprofit organizations with leveraging the power of information technology for organizational advancement and mission success. Doug, that is a topic that's come up several times here today. It's certainly up here at Blackbaud, BBCON, and it comes up here on the nonprofit program all the time. Everyone wants to be successful. Very few people know how to. So, Doug Barker, welcome here to the nonprofit program.
Thank you, Ted. It's great to be here. I think success has many different aspects to it. And we look at it, we really look at it as a strategy for that, from the centric, and how you do that. We look at aligning your people and their skill sets, the organizational structure, the goals you have. We look at alignment with the technology that you're utilizing. We look at alignment with the data and making sure that you're really maintaining and growing the data. We also look at processing out the whole constituent engagement life cycle. It really helps the organization be focused in on something you need for their mission.
Now, for a lot of organizations, they hire fundraisers because they need the money, and they don't think internally, they don't reflect internally on what it takes to organize to be successful. Why is that such a challenge?
I think the challenge is to deal with kind of the balance between the short term and the long term. And often people get very, very focused on what they need to do in the short term, and they're running around raising that next dollar, and really having fundraisers do that. I think the organizations are most successful take a longer view. They don't ignore their immediate pressing needs for the day. They take a longer view of what they're going to need in place. Both funding, but also through those fundraising that you can support the giving them, training the giving them, tools the giving them, so that they really can and really very fun.
I'm going to challenge you to think of this in a slightly different way. As I did when we started the show today, Shanon and Vanessa and I were exploring this concept that while fundraisers within nonprofit organizations can very readily tell you if they're not successful, why they're not successful, they don't have support within the organization, they don't have the tools that they need. I have ascertained here on this show for quite some time that to a certain extent, fundraisers live in glass houses and do not often take the time to integrate themselves into the culture, into the organization itself, and to help them top to bottom understand how fundraising is done. In fact, many times we are our own worst enemy. They're making it seem like magic. They make it seem like something that cannot be planned for. Money just comes in. So all of these fundraising team and the rest of the organization? How do the organization do it?
I think there are a couple of different ways. One is really integrate your fundraising immediately in the conditions of the organization. Give them a complete tour of the organization, get them out programmatically with websites to meet and know those that they're serving. And it's also so important because ultimately good fundraisers are ones that are passionate about the organization, speak to it from first-hand knowledge. So I think it's critical that they really understand what it takes to deliver on the mission and programmatically. And then the second one deals more with having the person really understand the whole bit of operation, what happens as well. So really orienting them around financial side of the house, for the director, leadership, the overall goals of the organization, and ultimately make them more effective fundraisers as well. Really want your fundraisers to feel they are part and parcel of the organization. And I think that a lot comes down to the CEO or the ED in particular, setting that kind of expectation and that kind of culture that really have the fundraisers be an integral part of it.
As an organizational expert, you probably already know this story that I'll share with my listeners. Many people have heard of Mike Bloomberg, the now former mayor of New York. At one time, he chaired a fundraising campaign for nonprofits. And I was very impressed with his keen financial and political mind. And one of the first things he did in the campaign is take a look at the production value of a major league officer and inform the organization that they must hire 20 more major league officers before this campaign to be successful. It's not often that you have someone in leadership who understands the need to be properly tooled for a campaign that focuses on how much they're going to raise responsibility in doing it. As an organizational expert, how do you help leadership understand their role in the success of fundraising?
Through my experience, I think people get inspired the most to change when they see other organizations that have done that. So one of the key tools that I use is a case study. I share with EDs and boards and others what other organizations have done successfully to prepare for a campaign. And no one case study, no one organization has all the answers. No one case study is a perfect, shoe-in for exactly what's going to happen in another organization. But by sharing stories of what has worked, what hasn't worked, how it works in different organizations, you inspire people to be thinking outside of the box, start to think about what they need to put in place. And we start providing them a real number. Here's what they invested in more main tech officers. Here's what they invested in technology. Here's what they invested in back office operations to make that happen. And then here was what was raised. And hey, it opens their eyes to realize it's not just about the focus on how much you're going to raise, but how much you're actually going to achieve that goal. And it's not magic. There's lots of good data points out there that show here's the formula and here's what you need to do to make it work.
What are some of them, or even just one, a unique story that you're aware of that helps frame that for simplicity to life?
This actually goes back to when I was Chief Information Officer at the Nature Conservancy, and we had just completed a 300, quite a while ago, back in the 90s, but it's still a story that resonates. We had just completed a $300 million campaign, and completing it, it's pretty much was completed because the CEO called on very ardent supporters of the board of directors who were able to make those points together. We started looking at what we really needed to do to be true to our mission, preserving those places on the planet that really matter to people. And part of that, and we really started talking about $500 billion and $750 million. They said it's $1 billion. We as a staff realized we needed to change the way we were doing it. And we started putting in place a operations by design, for the conservation program. It included creating major gift officers with dollar
place rather than just with the different executive directors out there. Included consolidation of all direct response programs, included moving over 200 separate databases to one enterprise system. It included multiple different, it also included a different way to do revenue sharing and different ways to share, think about going to the revenue migrant or really think about the organization. So huge cultural change as well. So it's really multi-pronged in terms of that level of change. But the bottom line for me is that often those kinds of big changes happen through what I'll call a crisis tuning. Either that crisis, in this particular case, one realizing that we were losing the overall war in terms of resilience and battles, in terms of good preservation projects, but on the whole, we were still losing the environmental cost. And it created a crisis, and created an idea for the organization that we needed to do Doug, it's such a pleasure to have you here. We only have about 2 announcements left on the show, but I can't actually without asking you to give us a minute's worth of what is Leadership 2.0. Today we spoke about how to harness a data-driven culture. How does all that fit? And you've got a good minute and a half. And before you end, I also need you to summarize what's been talked about. I'll actually start with how they can reach me and then Doug at barkerandcott.com. Doug at BBCON.com. Leadership 2.0, the journey toward being more data at the organization. It's all about making deliberate, smart investments in capturing the right kind of constituent information, maintaining and staying up to date on a regular basis, and then harvesting that data for better decisions. And in the session, we shared some wonderful examples from the Alzheimer's Association, Research Hospital, and from the Arthritis Foundation. Wonderful ways to go through the organization, really showing that role of data. Doug, I can't thank you enough for helping us wrap up the special edition of the Nonprofit Coach here live in Nashville at BBCON. Just for my listeners, we will have a 2-week hiatus, so you'll be able to catch up on hundreds of podcasts at tedhart.com. We will be back live on October 28th with Susan Black, the author of Trainer. Susan Black, CFRE, will be live here on the Nonprofit Coach. For our host, Blackbaud, I want to thank you for listening today. I want to thank all of our guests today for being so terrific and sharing such great up-to-date information here on the Nonprofit Coach.
You've been listening to the Nonprofit Coach Radio Show with Ted Hart. Tell all your friends to check out our production schedule and download our iPod and iPad-friendly podcast at tedhart.com. Thanks for listening to the Nonprofit Coach.
Have you Googled yourself lately? Are there negative posts from an ex-employee or from a former client? Maybe an outdated news article? Search engines don't always get it right. But right or wrong, it's your reputation on the line. That's where Reputation Defender by Norton comes in. Take control with Reputation Defender. Their cutting-edge approaches help you to wipe away unwanted information in your search results. They also promote the good stuff. You can start by getting your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 800-811-4975 to speak to an expert.
Top reasons your career wants you to move to Ohio. So many amazing growth opportunities, high-paying jobs in technology, advanced manufacturing, engineering, life sciences, and more. You'll soar to new heights, just like the Wright brothers, John Glenn, even Neil Armstrong. Their careers all took off in Ohio, and yours can too. A job that can take you further, and a place you can't wait to come home to. Have it all in the heart of it all. Launch your search at callohiohome.com.